Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna,
Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare
Ram
Krishna
Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Ram 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 Hare
Hare
Hare Hare
Hare
Rama Hare
Krishna,
Rama
Hare
Rama Rama Hare
Krishna,
Hare
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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Krishna
Ram
Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Hare Rama
Krishna,
Rama Rama Hare Krishna Krishna
Hare
Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare
Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram
Krishna
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna
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 Ram,
Krishna
Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna, Krishna, Krishna,
Ram
Hare Ram, Hare Ram, 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 Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Ram,
Krishna, Krishna, Krishna,
Krishna
Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram,
Hare
Ram,
Hare
Hare
Hare Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Ram,
Hare
Ram.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Ram, Hare Ram, 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 Hare
Ram
Help
Ram
the
Hare
previous chakra to send to be able to
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Krishna
Hare
Krishna
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna,
Rama
Krishna,
Rama
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare
Hare Krishna, 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 Hare
Hare Rama 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 Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna, Krishna,
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare
Krishna Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama
Hare
Rama
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama
Hare
Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Ram, 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 Hare
Hare Hare Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna, 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 Krishna,
Hare Rama
Hare
Rama
Krishna,
Rama
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna,
Hare Rama
Krishna,
Rama
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna Hare
Hare
Rama
Krishna,
Rama
Hare
Rama
Krishna, Krishna,
Hare
Krishna, Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Krishna
Krishna, Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna, Hare
Rama
Hare
Rama
Krishna,
Rama Rama Hare
Krishna, Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna Krishna Hare Rama
Hare
Rama
Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna.
वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। श्री गुरु महाराज की जय। All glories to the assembled devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. This is Yashamati from Chicago. Once again welcoming all of you to the mid-morning japa session. I thank all of you for attending this session and giving your beautiful association this morning. Please forgive me for interrupting your ecstatic chanting. Let us move to our next part of the session, which is Sri Caitanya Bhagavat. May I know who all have joined this morning?
Krishna Mataji, Dhanavad Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Gary in Montana. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Gary Prabhuji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for joining every day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Srimati Mataji, Dhanavad Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Vinita Gandharvika Devi Dasi from Texas.
Hare Krishna, Vinita Gandharvika Devi Dasi Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisance. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga and all assembled devotees. Shashidhar joining from Texas. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Shashidhar Prabhuji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for joining and beautiful chanting. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for your very valuable association on the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Priti Vilasini Devidasi Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining every day and giving your beautiful association to us. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Yashamati Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all the assembled devotees. This is Indulekha Karna Devi Dasi from India.
Hare Krishna, Indulekha Karuna Devi Dasi Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining and giving your very valuable services to us. Hare Krishna. Is there anybody else to introduce themselves? Welcome to Bhakti Sangha Japa Group. Today we are so fortunate to have His Grace Govardhan Giri Das Prabhuji on the topic of Sri Caitanya Bhagavata Adi Khand, chapter 16 to 91 to 96 verse. And before we start our session, I would like to read the Srila Prabhupada's quote. Women are by nature endowed with many artistic tendencies. And from the Vedic age, we find high-grade women and girls are were highly qualified in 64 arts. Srimati Radharani was fully qualified in those arts, and therefore, by her super excellent transcendental qualities, she could charm Krishna, who is the charmer of the three worlds. Letter to Shyamadasi, February 23rd, 1970. So thank you very much, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Shri Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much for giving your very valuable time and association to this morning and enlightening us on this topic of Sri Srimad Caitanya Bhagavat. I now hand over call to you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tatho Jayamudiraye Danashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nishtiki Mokam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Mande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Iswaram Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Dinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadipa Syati Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So we are reading from Sri Caitanya Bhagavat Adi Khanda, chapter 16. And today we are reading from text 291 onwards. So this is in connection with the discussion between Srila Haridas Thakur and that Brahmana regarding the chanting of the holy name. So previously Haridas Thakur is speaking about the glories of chanting the holy name loudly and how loud chanting is the most glorious because it helps everybody. So that is the point Srila Haridas Thakur is making to this Brahmana. And Text 291 onwards is the reaction of the Brahmana upon hearing this point brought out by Srila Haridas Thakur. So we are reading from text 291 onwards. Say Vipra Suni Haridasera Kathana Balite Lagila Krodhe Maha Durvachana. After hearing the words of Haridas, the Brahmana began to angrily blaspheme him. 292. Darshana Karta Ebe Haila Haridasa Kale Kale Veda Patha Haya Dekhi Nasha. Translation. Now even Haridas has become a philosopher. I can see that Vedic culture is being destroyed by the course of time. Commentary. That atheistic fallen Brahmana angrily spoke the following insulting words. There are 6 famous basic philosophies in India. All these philosophies are more or less under the subordination of the Vedas. Now this consideration on liberated souls presented by Haridas will become famous as the 7th philosophy. This is Kali Yuga. Therefore, by the influence of time, the Vedic path is now to be destroyed by the pure Vaishnava followers of Vedas like Haridas. So far, Kapila, Patanjali, Kannada, Akshapada, Jaimini, and Vyasa were the propounders of 6 philosophies. But now Haridas has come from somewhere and become propounder of the 7th philosophy. I don't know how many more philosophers will crop up from time to time. This is the Brahmana's reply to what Haridas Thakur is saying. There are many insinuations in this reply or in this reaction by this Brahmana. The obvious insinuation is that Haridas Thakur is at that time during this Chaitanya Leela, we all understand that Haridas Thakur is born into a non-Sanatanic background, and then he has become a devotee, Vaishnava. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understood how glorious Srila Haridas Thakur is. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought out the glorious nature, reality of Srila Haridas Thakur through many occasions that we all know. We read in Chaitanya Charitamrita how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always held a very special place for Srila Haridas Thakur in his heart. Also, during the Puri Leela, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sannyas time in Jagannath Puri, we know how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would visit Srila Haridas Thakur every day. So as followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at that time and even later, we understand the greatness of Haridas Thakur. But here, in this particular occasion, this Brahmana with whom Haridas Thakur is having this discussion, he does not understand the greatness of Haridas Thakur. He also does not understand the greatness, the value of a Vaishnava. It is very, very important to be able to properly understand Vaishnava. Who is a Vaishnava? So these 2-3 shlokas will bring out, in terms of misunderstanding a Vaishnava. So here he's saying that, I can see that Vedic culture is being destroyed by the course of time. So, and then in the commentary it is said that, the Shad Darshanas of the Vedas, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Yoga, Sankhya, Karma Mimamsa, then Purva Mimamsa, Uttara Mimamsa. So the Shad Darshanas are there, and the Shad Darshanas of the Vedas, or the 6 philosophical treatises, whether it is Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Karma Mimamsa, Yoga of Patanjali, or Sankhya of Kapila, or the Purva Mimamsa of Vyasadeva does not bring out bhakti. It does not, the Shat Darshanas does not directly bring out bhakti at all. Haridas Thakur is talking on a completely different level of bhakti through the process of chanting the holy name of the Lord, and specifically chanting the holy name of the Lord loudly. So this exposition of this particular topmost philosophy by Haridas Thakur could not be digested by this Brahmana. Obviously, he is a Jati Brahmana, so puffed up by knowing that, or saying that I know the Shat Darshanas, I am a Brahmana. And you are, indirectly, he is sort of blaspheming, not sort of, is on the face blaspheming Srila Haridas Thakur, because he is not able to understand the greatness of Haridas Thakur, and he is rather, out of his misunderstanding, he is accusing Haridas Thakur of manufacturing a philosophy. He is accusing Haridas Thakur of manufacturing a philosophy. This accusation, if you see, it is going on even now. It is going on even now. All the so-called Vedantists would say that this process of chanting of the holy name and this public chanting, this loud chanting, they will very conveniently say that these are all some manufactured type of, they will say, where in the Shruti Vakya it speaks about this, like that. And they will accuse that, this is some, new propaganda, new fashion they have brought out, and it was not there before, and many people will say that this was started, only in the 1960s by one, Prabhupada, like that also they will say. All these people belong to the category of envious, ignorant people. Why? Ignorant because they actually don't know. They may know the 6 darshanas, they may know the Upanishads, they may know some Shruti, some Smriti, all those things. But they have not actually understood the essence. They have not actually understood the essence of the teaching. It's always very important that, we should not, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself says that to Arjuna, that you don't become bewildered by the flowery words of the Vedas. Because if one becomes bewildered by the flowery words of the Vedas, because of that bewilderment, although he is studying or learning Vedas, he is hearing, he is chanting Vedas and trying to follow, he will miss the essence of it. He will miss the essence of it, which Krishna speaks of in the 15th chapter by saying that Veda ishta sarver aham eva vedya. Only I am to be. So whether somebody is studying the 6 darshanas, somebody is studying Upanishad, somebody is studying Shruti, somebody is studying Smriti, somebody is studying the Sutras, all those things. Krishna conclusively says that all these things are there to understand him. And if you don't understand him, whatever you may know, you may be Vedi, Dvivedi, Trivedi, Chaturvedi, everything one may be. But if one does not understand that the whole point of all these things is to understand Krishna, then you have missed the bus. So this Brahmana is one such example. Because he is not able to understand that what Srila Haridas Thakur speaks about is the ultimate essence. Because when we go through the previous verses, we see that, yes, a person who chants softly to himself and elevates himself above the three modes of material nature and gets out of this material platform is definitely great. Because it is not a small thing to be able to overcome the three modes of material nature, overcome all the material entanglements that one has, and to be able to become liberated is definitely a great thing. So Haridas Thakur says that anybody who is doing his japa and getting himself out of this samsara, repeated birth and death, is definitely great. But one who chants loudly for the benefit of everybody else, he liberates himself and he also helps other people to liberate themselves. Also those living entities who cannot. Haridas Thakur speaks about only the human being having a tongue that can actually vibrate the holy name. And then there are other living entities. They have tongue, but they cannot speak. So this is actually the ultimate paropakara. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, Bharata Bhumite Janma Ailayara Janma Sarthaka Kari Kara Para Upakara. Whoever is born in this Bharata Bhumi, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that one should make his Janma Sarthaka Kari, one should make one's life meaningful by doing Para Upakara. And actually, that Para Upakara is nothing but, chanting the holy name loudly so that other people will hear and everybody gets a chance to become liberated. This is actually the topmost philosophy, and this is actually the innermost secret, the deepest essence of all Vedic knowledge, which is what Srila Haridas Thakur is propounding. But the Brahmana is puffed up that I am a Brahmana, I have some knowledge of Shruti and other things. So he is making, he's blaspheming somebody like Haridas Thakur and definitely taking himself further and further down to the blaspheming Brahmana. Yuga Sheshe Shudra Veda Karibe Vakhane Yakhanai Taha Dekhi Sheshe Arakayane. It is stated that Shudras will explain the Vedas at the end of Kali Yuga. But why only at the end of the age? We can see it happening even now. So now this Brahmana is directly attacking Haridas Thakur and calling him unwanted names like, Shudras will explain Vedas, which is he is directly calling Haridas Thakur something like that, very offensive. But in the country it says, the phrase Yuga Shesha refers to the last part of Kali Yuga. A Mahayuga consists of 4 yugas, Satya, Treta, Dwapara and Kali. The duration of these 4 yugas diminished respectively from 4/10 to 3/10 to 2/10 to 1/10 of a Mahayuga. Duration of Kali Yuga is 432,000 Earth years. A Manvantara consists of 71 Mahayugas. A Kalpa consists of 14 Manvantaras, or duration of 15 Satya Yugas subtracted from 1,000 Mahayugas. This Kali Yuga comes in the 28th Mahayuga, or the cycle of Manu, the cycle of 4 yugas, in the reign of Vaivasvata, the 7th Manu of the Shvetavaraha Kalpa. We have only passed a few years since the beginning of Kali Yuga. It is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam that at the end of Kali Yuga, Varnashrama principles will be completely absent. We are already experiencing the future of behavior of Kali Yuga at the beginning of the age. According to the Varnashram system, only the 3 Varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya and Vaishya, are eligible to study Vedas, and of them, only the Brahmanas are qualified to teach the Vedas. These 3 twice-born castes generally accept 10 samskaras or purificatory rites, but the sinful Shudras are not at all qualified to undergo samskaras of the twice-born. The Shudras can never have any qualification for either studying or teaching Vedas, but due to influence of Kali, deviations and distortions in Varnashrama principles are seen. Although there are deviations in Varnashrama principles, twice-born persons still desire to increase their prestige simply by external symptoms. In consideration of Varna, there are 3 types of birth: Shaukra by semen, Savitra by initiation, Daiksha by becoming a perfect Brahmana. Those who want to become a twice-born through seminal birth must accept the Savitra Samskara or sacred ceremony. Then by taking Vishnu Diksha after becoming a twice born, one achieves the third or Daiksha birth. Shudra, however, has no second or third birth. Due to the widespread discrepancies in practice of Garbhadan Samskara, it is more reasonable and faultless to ascertain one as a twice born by symptoms, nature, and Agama Diksha or Vedic initiation rather than by seminal consideration. That is why the Vaishnava consideration does not approve of seminal consideration. Though persons engaged in fruitive activities do not highly regard Vaishnava considerations, Vaishnava consideration based on Shastras are most respectable methods for ascertaining Daivi Varnashram principles. Since ignorant persons expert in material knowledge follow non-scriptural methods for ascertaining Varna, the original everlasting method has recently become endangered. That is why sinful persons who are engaged in fruitive activities and envious of Vaishnavas become bewildered by illusion while considering who is Brahmana and who is Shudra. In this case, although the atheistic, meat-eating, non-devotee, seminal, so-called Brahmana has presented external, mundane, gross bodily considerations of Vaishnavas, that fallen Brahmana mistakenly and sinfully considered that since Thakur Haridas was not born in a Brahmana family, he was completely incapable of acting as a religious instructor. Moreover, taking shelter of Vivartavada, theory of illusion, that person angrily condemned the Vaishnavas who reveal purpose of the Vedas as Shudras. Actually, that atheist was himself an abominable Shudra. Godlessness, cripple-mindedness, and untruthfulness made him averse to pure Vaishnavas in every sphere of his life. Although he was a fallen Shudra, proudly considered himself a Brahmana, he considered a Vaishnava who is a spiritual master of the Brahmanas as belonging to a particular caste. In this way, he committed grave offense and went to hell. That fallen sinful Shudra, who was envious of Vaishnavas and proud of being a Brahmana, must have heard descriptions of Kali Yuga stating that Shudras attentive to worldly subjects rather than study Vedas will become so-called Brahmanas and study and teach Vedas in Kali Yuga. But the popular statement that one can also become a Brahmana through Saiva Diksha or initiation to worship of Shiva is not approved by Vedic literature. Rather, according to Pancharatras, on the strength of Vishnu Diksha, devotees attain Vedic Brahmanical status. One cannot study the Vedas through Shaiva Diksha. That is clearly explained in the Brahma Sutra. Sri Yamunacharya has completely refuted the atheist view that Vaishnavas are not Brahmanas by presenting evidence from the Agamas, authorized books of Vedic literature as follows. Furthermore, the Bhagavatas who have abandoned Vedic duties such as Savitri Anuvachana and instead observe the 40 samskaras enjoined in the Ekayana Shruti are properly adhering to the principles enunciated in the Grihya Sutras of their own branch and thus have never fallen from the status of Brahmanas on account of not performing the rituals of a different branch. After all, if by not following the rules of all Vedic branches, a Brahmana becomes fallen, then followers of other branches would also have to be considered fallen from Brahminical status because they do not perform rituals of other branches. Among the devotees of South India, the title of Iyengar is still current. This word refers to a Brahmana who has undergone more than 5 samskara. The Brahmanas who have undergone 10 samskaras are known as Iyer. The Iyengars undergo 15 samskaras. Among the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, there are 5 additional samskaras, therefore they undergo 20 samskaras. In the Samskara Deepika, which is an appendix to his Sakriya Sara Deepika, Gopal Bhatta Goswami has mentioned these samskaras. The Vaishnava states, Swayam Brahmani Nikshaptan Jatan Evahi Mantaraha Vinitanatha Putradin Samskritya Pradibodhayed. When the Guru gives mantra to his disciple according to the rules and regulations of Pancharatrika Vidhi, then by influence of that mantra, the disciple never takes birth again. The humble disciple behaves with great respect for his spiritual master as if he is a son of the Guru. To such a humble disciple who has been purified by appropriate samskaras, the Guru teaches the meaning of the mantra. But since uninitiated mental speculators who are opposed to Hari Guru and Vaishnava do not accept Vedic and Pancharatric systems, formidable errors have entered in their process of consideration. Following the footsteps of such averse persons, the sinful Brahmana demonstrated the future behavior of Kali Yuga in the beginning of the age. Nashudra Bhagavat Bhaktas Tetu Bhagavata Mata Sarva Varneshu Te Shudra Yena Bhakta Janardana. Devotee should never be considered a Shudra. All devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead should be recognized as Bhagavatas. If one is not a devotee of Lord Krishna, however, even if born of a Brahmana, Kshatriya or Vaishya family, he should be considered a Shudra. It should be understood that those who disregard the above evidence of Vaishnava literature have no respect for Vaishnavas or pure devotional path. indeed, they are Guru Drohi or envious of the spiritual master. As a very long commentary to that verse, basically, where this Brahmana is saying, he is misquoting something by saying that, Vedas at the end of Kali Yuga will be handled by Shudras, something like that. So, actually, we must understand that because Kali Yuga is devoid of real Brahmanas. When we speak about real Brahmanas as per Guna, such real Brahmanas are practically absent in Kali Yuga. You may say there are, but among millions, there would only be a handful of such Brahmanas. And therefore, in Kali Yuga, there is no adhikara, there is no yogyata, meaning there is nobody qualified to study Vedas. And subsequently, because there are no qualified people to study, there are no qualified people to teach. So what we are left with is Brahmanas born into Brahmana families. In other words, can also be called as Brahma Bandhus, and having some kind of Brahmanical achar, some kind of Brahmanical activities like that. And as time goes by, even those Brahmanical achara or activities are diminishing very quickly, meaning even the half-baked Brahmana is becoming unraveled as time goes. So this is the situation. And somehow, many of such Brahmanas, seminal Brahmanas, as is mentioned in this commentary here, meaning born into a Brahmana family or born into people who claim to be Brahmanas. Although they may not have the guna, they still may be doing some activity. They will be taking Upanayanam and they will be doing some Vedic study. And eventually they will all take up to Shudra activities, meaning salaried jobs like that. So there is no real Brahmana. But the so-called Jati Brahmana, they will not accept the Vaishnava conclusions. And this particular critic Brahmana of Srila Haridas Thakur is doing exactly that. He is misquoting from the Vedas. Because when the Vedas say that by the end of Kali Yuga, Shudras will be handling Vedas, it is because even those who are born in Brahmana family is actually on the platform of a Shudra by Guna Karma. Meaning by the end of Kali Yuga, there will practically only be Shudras left. So from that point of view, Vedas speak about Shudras handling Vedas by the end of Kali Yuga. So in the purport or in the commentary, we are reading that already we can see some glimpses of that many people are, they are referring to Vedic literature. They will misquote from Vedic literature and bring out some kind of, highly controversial conclusions. They will justify so many unwanted things by quoting Vedic literature out of context. All these are actually people, although they may be quoting from Vedas, and they will be quoting Sanskrit. I remember one very senior devotee once While speaking, he was telling that, nonsense spoken in any language is nonsense, including Sanskrit. So he was saying that just because somebody quotes Sanskrit, don't immediately think that he is a great Pandit. He is a very knowledgeable person. He said that in Sanskrit also you can speak nonsense. So by quoting Vedic literature, including the Shruti Vakya out of context, you can speak nonsense. By quoting Vedic literature out of context and giving one interpretation is actually nonsense. But you may say, no, but he quoted Vedas. But if you quote it out of context and you bring out another meaning, what is the use of quoting? What is the use of knowing? To say that I know this from part of the Shruti, this Upanishad I know this, that Upanishad I know that. What is the point? So, envious people are very experts in doing this. And especially when they see that the Vaishnavas are making this accessible to everyone. The Jati Brahmana becomes even more envious because, first of all, he doesn't do anything properly. Next, he thinks that he has some right that only he should do. And when he sees that it is being distributed, then he becomes very upset. So what he does, his reaction is to blaspheme that Mahatma who is distributing it. Blaspheme the Mahatma who is distributing it freely and say that this is not Vedic. So these are class of people who think that Vedas belong in their pockets. Because these are all Vedavada Rathas. They are seeing some Karmandik portion of the Veda and they think that only is Veda. They think that by doing these activities, I am making sure that my next birth at least I will get to Swargaloka, like this. There are many others who think that by doing these daily rituals, I will remain very rich and very happy and very peaceful in this lifetime. So these are all, in one way or the other, nonsense. Actually. Because whatever by birth you may be, whoever by birth you may be, and whatever you may be studying, you may have studied in terms of Vedic literature also, I'm saying. But if you are not coming to the right conclusion, Vedaisya sarve rahameva vedya, then everything becomes shrama evahi kevalam. Shrama evahi. So, similarly, this Jati Brahmana is blaspheming Haridas Thakur. This is like the Jati Brahmanas, they would say that when you cross the sea, you will no more be a Brahmana. I don't know how many of you have heard this. But, among the Brahmanas, there is, if you cross the sea, you will lose your Brahmanical prowess. So when they hear that A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, went across and went to America, he crossed ocean. So immediately they will say, that itself will disqualify him. Like that they will say. And they think that they are very intelligent and very elevated by finding some loophole, out of context and, presenting that to be the ultimate truth and then getting some cheap happiness out of that. They are unable to see that a topmost Vaishnava, Uttama Adhikari, Mahabhagavata, does not care for himself in any way. Whether he loses his Brahmana status, whether he loses his sannyas status, he is not worried about any of those things. He simply wants to give Krishna Bhakti. Why? Because he is a staunch follower of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yare dekhat tare kaha Krishna Upadesha. So, for the Vaishnava, especially for the Gaudiya, that is topmost instruction. That you may be across the sea, you may be in between the sea, you may be south of the sea, west of the sea, north of the sea, across the Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, Arabian, whatever, anywhere. Then they would also say that if you perform these activities in these places, there is no effect. You know, so many concocted ideas they will present and make it sound like absolute truth and be very satisfied with themselves. But actually what is happening is that by blaspheming the pure devotee Vaishnava, they are paving their way to hell. This is what is happening. So this is going on in Kali Yuga. And people are not able to understand. You know, and there is the other bunch of people, now that we are into this subject of, you know, Haridas Thakur becoming criticized because he spoke about the loud chanting of the holy name. There are other people also who say that it is not, it is not the way of Sanatana Dharma to, you know, go out on the street and chant loudly and, do this kind of preaching. That is not meant to be. But this is the Supreme Lord's formula, because even by the end of Dwapara Yuga, after Krishna left, and when Parikshit was about to leave, when he's starting to ask questions to Shukadeva Goswami, in the beginning of second canto, Shukadeva Goswami, when he starts speaking, he tells Parikshit Maharaj, because Parikshit is asking Shukadeva Goswami, what is the most important dharma for a person who is staring at death? The most important thing to do. This is, in sum and substance, this is a question by Parikshit. So, the beginning of Shukadeva Goswami's reply is very interesting. He says, your questions are really glorious. Why? Srotavyadini Rajendra Nirnam Santi Sahasraha. Apashyatam Atmatattvam Griheshu Grahame. He says, your question is very glorious. Why? Because he says that, hey, my dear king, for the common man, there are thousands of subjects to listen to. When did he say that? He said it at the end of Dwapara Yuga. Long before your mobiles and your WhatsApp and everything came, social networking and other things. At that time itself, Shukadeva Goswami said that the common man has got thousands of subjects to listen to. And he is interested in all those thousands of worldly subjects that apashyatam atmatattvam. He is not able to see the atmatattvam. He is not able to see the truth about the self. Griheshu grahamedhinam. Because he is a grahamedhi who gives importance to his graha. So therefore, he has thousands of subjects to listen to. So as we come into Kali Yuga, practically everybody is like that. Everybody has got thousands and thousands of subjects to discuss, be interested in, being attached to all those things. So if you simply sit in the bhajan kutir and chant softly Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, who is going to listen? Who is going to become interested? So, in order to get all those apashyatam atmatattvam, griheshu grahamedina, dharanam santi sahasrasaha, all those human beings who have already got thousands of subjects to discuss and listen to, in order to get them all interested in this most important subject, we actually have to go out and chant Krishna's names very loudly, so that through all those thousands of subjects that they are attracted to, the holy name should pierce through all those thousands of subjects and reach them. So this is the most practical, authentic formula given by the Supreme Lord. So how can it be non-Vedic or anti-Vedic or, something new? Cannot be. Why? Because the Lord has given it, that itself is the greatest authority. Where does the authority of the Veda come from? From the Supreme Lord. Because the Vedas came out of his lotus mouth. That is why it is apaurusheya. It is not written by some human beings. It is not written by people who have the 4 defects. It is enunciated by the Supreme Lord. That is why Vedas are ultimate, considered to be the ultimate authorized statement. The same person who is the source of the Vedas in Kali Yuga is coming and giving this process of chanting the holy name, and not only sitting and chanting it in japa, in solitude or softly. He himself inaugurated the public chanting of the holy name. So how can somebody say that this is a new philosophy? How can somebody say this is new philosophy? And also it is given in the Upanishad, in the Purana. So that Pramana is also there. So without understanding all these fundamental truths, ignorant people, envious people, they tend to criticize, saying that, no, this is not the Vedic system. This is not the Sanatana Dharma system. Why? Because they're envious that other people are becoming, devoted, oh, I am from Sanatana Dharma, I am from the holy land of Bharata, I am seeing all other land, people are becoming holy. So out of that enviousness, the only thing I can do is I can criticize. So I criticize. So this is how the entire Hare Krishna movement is being criticized unjustly by ignorant and envious people. So this Brahmana in this particular situation with Srila Haridas Thakur epitomizes that attitude of the critics. So he's saying, so I have to listen all these things from a Shudra, like that he's saying. He thinks that by saying that he has become, something. And he is thinking that, that is going to have some effect on Srila Haridas Thakur. Vaishnava is totally unaffected by all these things. Correct? Tulya Ninda Sthitir Mauni. So, whether it is Ninda, whether it is Prashamsa, whether somebody is glorifying, whether somebody is blaspheming, the Vaishnava is not at all affected either by the glorification or by the blasphemy, because he is completely unaffected by all these material considerations. And his only consideration is that how to spread the holy name to everyone so that everyone can be benefited, including the man who is criticized. This is how the Vaishnava is thinking. That if somebody, if an envious, ignorant person is criticizing Vaishnava, Vaishnava's botheration still would be that how this person can also be made to chant. Not that, I want to, prove him wrong, not that I want to bring him to my side, not like that. Because he is also another suffering soul. He should also get relief from his suffering. With that thought, only always the Vaishnava is thinking and acting. So the Brahmana continues his tirade. Next shloka. 294. Ei rupe apanare prakata kariya ghare ghare bhala bhoga khais buliya. This is how you advertise yourself, so that you can eat nicely at others' houses. Commentary. That sinful fallen Brahmana said to Haridas Thakur, being a transcendental philosopher, you have presented an explanation that is hostile to the fruity workers, who are envious of devotional service in such a way that you can advertise your own glories to your followers and cleverly accumulate palatable foodstuffs. Now again, this is bringing out his ignorance further, because he is thinking of Haridas Thakur just like any other, typical Kali Yuga begging Brahmana, saying something, and so that you will get some bhiksha, get some dakshina, and that way you can, take care of the stomach. This is another symptom of Kali Yuga. We see that people use all these things in order to get some money, to fill the belly, to engage in some sense gratification. So he is, because his blasphemy has reached to such a level, he is bringing Haridas Thakur, Srila Haridas Thakur down to that level and accusing him, that saying that just you want to speak something. But the Brahmana is also saying that what you are speaking will make all the envious people very uncomfortable. For the Karma Kandi, for one who is so much engaged in performing dharma with the expectation of some artha through which he can take care of, fulfill his kama, for such a person, when you speak about the holy name being everything, and you don't need anything else, holy name is everything, and then actually getting any other kind of benefit is of no use. The ultimate benefit is to remember the Lord, the Supreme Lord, at the time of leaving this body. That is why we chant the holy name. So whenever we speak about the glories of the holy name, and also preaching in such a way that this holy name is not meant for some immediate material benefit. This holy name is actually our way out of this material life. So those people who are very attached to their material life, at the same time acting like followers of Dharma, they become very uncomfortable. The gross materialist becomes uncomfortable. Plus also the pseudo-dharmic materialist also becomes uncomfortable. Why? Because he is utilizing all dharma, all activities of dharma, so that he can live happily here. He is actually not thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord at all. He wants to stay safe, play safe, be happy where he is, be comfortable where he is. So for that, he is doing dharma. Such people also will become very disturbed when they hear that, chant the holy name. The holy name is everything. You don't need anything else. Yamunacharya says, Sri Vaishnava Acharya, Yamunacharya, in one of the verses, he says that, he is addressing the Sandhya Vandana, the Trikala Sandhya prayers that a Brahmana is supposed to do 3 times. So he apologizes to the 3 Sandhya prayers by saying that ever since I became attracted to this Lord Krishna, he says that I am not giving any attention to you, the 3 Sandhyas. I am not worshipping you anymore because I have become enchanted, attracted by this boy, this Shyama Sundara. Now he is the only one ruling my heart. So I am sorry, I have no time for you. Like that. So for Vaishnava, there are no other considerations. And when he says that there need not be any other considerations, simply the holy name is enough, then that also upsets the materialist. Why? Because he wants some material comfort, and he is doing all these things for material comfort. But when you say that the holy name is actually not meant for material comfort at all, it's actually to give the material security. Naturally, the Brahmana is, because he has become affected like that, he is accusing Haridas Thakur by saying that you want to come out with some exotic philosophy, gather some followers and, be happy, get good food stuff from them and be happy like that. So continuing with his blasphemy, and Shloka 295, Ye vyakhya karile tui ye yadi na lage tabe tora nakha kana kati tora age. If the explanation that you have made is not true, then I will cut off your nose and ears. Commentary. Hearing Haridas Thakur's conclusive scriptural statements regarding the glories of the holy names, that atheistic fallen Brahmana's animalistic propensity became more prominent. Out of anger, he cursed and swore as follows: if the explanation of the glories of the holy name presented by Haridas Thakur is not in agreement with scriptures, then I will take revenge by publicly cutting off his nose and ears. So, this is how the Brahmana concludes his reaction to Srila Haridas Thakur's glorification of the holy names. So, very typical situation here faced by Srila Haridas Thakur with this envious Brahmana, because elsewhere also we read in Chaitanya Leela that the materialists became very affected by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement. Also, the Jati Brahmanas also became very upset by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement, because they saw that people are actually getting the essence which they themselves, which the so-called Brahmanas themselves did not have, and they did not want people to have it. So they all became very envious. So that kind of enviousness and ignorant nature we can see even today. And that continues. But most important thing is that the Sankirtan movement continues to attract more and more souls, because it is started by the Supreme Lord himself, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it has been fueled by the Senapati Bhakta, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So the Sankirtan will roll on and attract more and more fallen souls to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna, Sri Caitanya Bhagavata Ki Jai. I'll stop here.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. You are such a nice session, Prabhuji. And you just talk about the so-called Brahmanas, whatever we see in this Kali Yuga. And you just compare with the Vaishnavas, how the Vaishnavas are, and how the pseudo-Brahman and atheistic Brahman, whatever. And also you just talk the glories of Srila Haridas Thakur. Since last some days we are totally hearing of a very nice topic of loudly chanting, right? And how it is so effective and how it is so good that by chanting oneself, he's liberate himself, but not only himself, also he liberate the others. So this is the paropkar like that. And our Srila Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he told, and he just give the example by himself to how to loud chanting and bhajan and kirtan, sankirtan together. Then one can go to back home, back to Godhead. So it is very, very nice. You just talk about the Brahmanas and our Gaudiya Vaishnava like that. And also I want to say that I like that point by philosophy, all kind of philosophy. One cannot give the bhakti to anyone. But if you do some sankirtan by Nam, because Nam and Nam Bhagwan, God's name and name is totally not separate. Yeah. So it is more important that if you give bhakti or Nam to others, Krishna, give Krishna to others by sankirtan or by chanting loudly, it is much, much more better than you do the philosophical talk to anyone. And so this is, I like too much, Prabhuji. It's very, very nice. And I really love this session to understand how the loud chanting is very important. So if anybody have any questions or realization, you can do, devotees.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for such a beautiful class. Very beautiful class, Prabhuji. So right now in this Kali Yuga, there are no perfect Brahmanas, and they are themselves calling us Brahmana because they are born as a Brahmana. And we see as a, like, we know that because we are reading Srila Prabhupada's purpose and we are understanding that what is real Brahmana. Before, I really don't know actually. Brahmana means, okay, he's wearing a dhoti kurta and coming in a dress, and okay, we do our obeisances to them. That is how we used to do. But right now we know the understanding and we know the standards, and we see them in that situation. And we, like, recently I went to India and we had to do so many rituals, like religious family rituals, like related to puja and everything. Regular Brahmanas will come and do that. So when we see them, how do I say it? The respect to them is going down, and how do we receive when they give some things? Not everything they are telling is wrong, but they tell so many things they tell according to their convenient things. Like if they are doing it, okay, that's fine. Like I was telling to him that I don't even eat onion and garlic, and then he was telling that what problem with onion and garlic? Onion and garlic is very good for health. So then I was like, okay, this is how the standard we learned from our teachers, so we are following it. Then I don't know, like, how do we give respect to them, or what do we do in that situations when we are in family functions and we are seeing this Brahmanas coming and doing rituals? How do we do? I mean, like, how do we receive that?
No, we just use the Amanina Manadana principle. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said we should respect everybody. So that kind of respect we can give.
Yeah, of course. That's what, because I don't go there more often. I'm living in other country. I'm so happy for that, because I don't need to get in so many times with contact with those kind of people. Yeah, Prabhuji, thank you so much. And like how
because see, in Kali Yuga, from the beginning of Kali Yuga, this Varnashram system got completely topsy-turvy. So what happens is that the Kshatriyas became non-existent. These kings became very ruthless, and so the Brahmanas were no more protected. So they had to, over a period of time, this is how it is historically, if you see, then they had to take up other occupations and things like that. And then their entire culture, it's a culture that gets deteriorated over a period of time. Then, there is no adhikara also, there is no guna also. So whatever little they have, they manage with it. And then as Kali Yuga goes, these things become worse and worse. What can? So we are very fortunate that we have taken shelter of the holy name through the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. So we understand that beyond all those ritualistic observances is ultimately the chanting of the holy name, which includes within itself all these things. So, but at the same time, as you say, there is something called lokachar, that you have a family. Then lokachar means that, for the society, there are some acharas that we do. As long as those acharas don't contravene with our basic principles, we can be silent spectators. If it is contravening our principle, we shouldn't take part also. That is what we should do. And then, okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Yes, Prabhu, that is so nice that if it is affecting us, so we should better not to be participating in that. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for such a beautiful class, very nice class. So many instructive points that how we can deal with this, like how exactly what's happening when we are as a like a ISKCON devotee going and representing in the outside world who themselves think that everything is right. or what they are saying is right. How it will be the situation with your class, I could understand, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Anybody have any question or say something to Prabhuji? Realization. So if not, then Prabhuji, if your permission, can we end the call?
Thank you. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for these so instructive classes and how we should careful about these kind of brahmanas. And if we see like that, we should not go in ourselves. We should avoid that, and we should come out from that things from them. So it's very, very enlightening class today, and we are very grateful to you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you. We look forward to your association again in future, Prabhuji. So, Vancha kalpatarubhyashta kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Shri Caitanya Bhagavata Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. His Grace Govardhan Giri Das Prabhuji Ki Jai.
Jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Koti Koti Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna.
Thank you everyone for joining today's class. We'll close the call for today.